I've been asked to talk about uke and ukimi this afternoon, but before I jump into my shtick, any more feedback things you guys want to talk about? That's just other people that what they want. Maybe you guys have things I'd like to hear from anybody. Yes.
It's just me, but I would love to see you do something with a weapon.
A weapon?
So,
wow. Okay. Sure. Let me think about it. I'm trying to get from where I'm talking to where we're going with weapons.
that was a bad request, I'm sorry.
No. It's a good request, but it might be tomorrow. You'll be around tomorrow? Okay, cool. I don't know if I can do it along with what I'm going to do this.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Anything else? What? Nada?
Yeah, I have the initial drawing and breath for the stuff we're working on.
Right.
A little bit more on that one.
Okay, so physiologically, if you're just standing here, you're just sitting here, and you're in a neutral state, your balance is fairly neutral. So you can feel this for yourself when you take a big old deep breath all of a sudden. You feel what your body does. It goes backward. Okay, now get it neutral again, you're standing there on your feet, and expel your breath hard. And goes forward, right? Very similar effects occur when we're going, you're standing here and everything's in neutral with your hands, and you push them. See what happens. Or you curl them. And see what happens. Or another one that happens is, let's say you're standing here and something threatens your eyes, like Sam just does, you blink your eyes violently. Everything goes like that. Or your eyes are closed and you open them suddenly. Everything goes like that. There's these little physiological gifts. And one of the bigger ones is the breath. Like this. And you can feel it before and after very readily right off the bat. Over time, you refocus that a little bit, and it's like it's going up and down, too. So you have these cycles where you can kind of imagine your breath going up the back of your body on the in-breath, coming around the top of your head, going out down the front of your body on the out-breath. Like that. And you can reverse that cycle too. On your in-breath, you can bring it up in front of your body. You feel that sensation back down the side of your body. So it's going like this. And in traditional Chinese medicine stuff, they talk about this being a cycle of fire, going this way, and this one being a cycle of water. This is the yin cycle, and this is the yang cycle. When we're doing this first job, we're doing this yin cycle. Okay? But there are other jobs that are more like this, and this is more the vaulting up. And this is more the so it all goes along with breath function as well. You don't have to breathe. You know, breathing's optional. To whatever degree you can manage that. But in terms of focusing your breath on making these actions happen in your core, it's not demanded of you, but it does go along physiologically. But so does making your eyes open, making your eyes shut, or turning your wrist out, or pulling your wrist back. You'll find all of those have very similar resonant effects in how you're organizing yourself energetically inside the body. Cool? Cool. Anything else? Anything else? What? And breathe. Not. Okay, now ukimi. I had a request about ukimi is often simplified down to the falling skills. Hey, it's about falling, and that's critical. It's critical that you get the falling skills down. It's critical that as much as you can invest yourself into falling and allow yourself to go through that process, that you do that safely. I'm pretty loosey-goosey about how you do all your Tory stuff. People have noticed that about me. It's, man, just anything goes with the release. There's all kinds of different stuff in katas. I'm not that way about routine. Uke is probably the most central secret weapon part of the arts we do. Uke and ukimi is probably the part that I'm strictest about. And if you would follow the guidelines that I think of as the coherent best practices for ukimi specifically, I think it'll operate everything you're doing, regardless of how you operate a sport. And the first, who wants to demonstrate Ukimi? Yeah, come on. And you may be familiar with all this, or some parts of it might be new to you, and whichever it is, this is not Nick's idea of Ukimi. This is Ukimi that was developed by a research council at Kodokan in the 1950s when they took the top Ukimi people in the world and put them together and said, now let's define absolutely the best Ukimi in the world. And then we're going to squirrel that away for ourselves and let the rest of the world kill themselves. And very few people outside of Kodokan learn it. So this is a pretty rare piece of the puzzle that we preserved in our form of teaching this Aikido computer. So first, yeah, you're on your back, get on your back. Standard dumb stuff. It's flat to the earth, his hands are in front of his chest, he's breathing out, he's lifting his head, and he's slapping. All that, yeah. Simple, simple. We're tying the reflex of the slap to the reflex of putting the chin on the chest. That has to be absolutely consistent. Because keeping the chin on the chest and the back fall is the #1 way you keep from getting your head busted on the concrete and getting subdermal hematomas in your brain and winding up dead. So that's the first big practice. Is everybody comfortable and familiar with that? And you do it consistently. Okay, if you don't, then you can do that. Okay. Next he sits up. From a sitting position, sit. There you go. He's gonna put your legs upstairs. There you go. He's gonna roll back. Let his legs come up long and do the same job. Make sure the chin touches the chest. He breathes out, roll back. And he stays as round as he can. The slap is coming out to the side, but not extreme. He's not reaching back early, and it's happening right as his shoulder blades make contact. Good. It's important that the legs get long because that slows down the acceleration, throwing him back and down. So if he has a habit of bending his knees, for instance, he'll tend to roll toward his head a bit and bump the back of his head more. And the Japanese did find some schools where they were doing a lot of bad back falls, and students, particularly at the university, that were getting the back of their head banged up and some of them died. So kind of critical, chin on the chest, slap, decelerate by extending the legs high. So if you'd like to make the legs stretch out, yeah, go straight to the ceiling. Go ahead. Yeah, very simple. Everybody cool with that? Nothing, no new information yet?
Question.
Yeah, question.
One way I've been taught to do that is not legs straight up, almost at that angle. So you go like, does that make much of a difference?
Do it again. Yeah, I think that is probably not as efficient in your low back. That's not as efficient in your low back. And I would hesitate to do it that way if somebody's really launching your ass. So, I don't know. I'd have to test it. But generally what I know about this one is if you do this one enough, and he stands up, and I launch him with the shomanate, not just the normal shomanate, but the like for real shomanate, that turns him into a fucking arrow head first, he survived. I don't know that you survived with that. So I'd have to test it before I could really answer that.
You also probably have to see one.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Okay. Cool. So I'm sorry. Standing form. Same thing. Back fall. Any other questions so far? I'm trying to be very meticulous about Ukimi here because it's really critical. This is the resilient stuff that keeps your ass alive. When he begins his back fall, he comes up. No. So yeah. See Joe sit down. Some people have a range of motion where they can just sit straight to their ass, and that's fine. A lot of the world does not have that range of motion, and they need to unlock from their ankles to let their knees bend all the way down to a squat. And so you come up on the balls and feet, you let the hands come up with it, and then you squat down, roll, slap. Same rule. These are the principal forms. It could be rudder form, it could be a step or something. Yeah, but those are extra. These are the central ones. Bravo. Bravo. Chin's on the chest, breath is going out, it's all hitting as the shoulder blades touch. Chin's on the chest and it's pushing the back of his head. Now he's going to do the side fall. And we're going to go back to squatting. From the squatting position, he wants to slide a leg all the way up to the side of his body. You're here. take the hand and the foot and go across the body and you roll up the side. There you go. Good. And you get round up the side of your body. And your chin stays on your chest and your shoulders touch. Oh, you want to do it on your
I want to just do like kind of lower and kind of
Okay.
better on
on your knees?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to put you. Mechanically, you tie your hand to your foot. As your foot tracks across the center line of your body, your hand goes with it. That's kind of critical. What that is doing is it's mechanically forcing you to get it out of the habit of reaching back to the ground, which is where most people break their arm and dislocate your shoulder. So this one doesn't save your life as much as just keep you from dislocating your shoulder. It also is a very, very common way when you fall off the ladder, out the back of a pickup truck. Man, side falls come out of nowhere. It's like, shoot, most of the time, the world has thrown me. It's been a side fall when I wound up at the bottom. Good. The standing force is the same. You open it up a little bit, you slide across. And you try to slide it as long as you can and go down and come on the support leg. And it's even not a bad practice to just do them really smooth and see if you can even just take the slap out so it's just a smooth, round feeling thing. This is a test of your, yeah, see how round and quiet you can make it just under the sit. Cool? Is that all making sense? All cool? Okay. Now he lays on the back, and we sort out the slap issue. So he's going to roll from one side to the other. And he did it better that time. The first one kind of sucked. You know why it sucked? It sucked because it went ba-bum. There were 2 or 3 impacts. What we're looking for here is that the body goes into a position where the chin's on the chest, the feet, the hands, and everything's ba-bum. You hear it?
That's the 2 things.
Great.
That would be my story too.
Mine doesn't go ba-bum. You want me to go over there? Hey, you're correct. God, yeah. Everything should making be one impact. You're not wanting to go. Okay. That has to do with how you dissipate the shock in the body. Has to do with breathing out. Has to do with spreading out the impact over the flat surface area. You're also trying to correct for any tendencies to cross the legs. It's very popular to do that sort of thing. Yeah. One leg goes over the other. So you have the posture holding the barrel between the knees. And he's kind of going long, but you can also just post up, twist, and come down. Right, almost easy. Yeah. Give you some elevation. And that's working the entire core of your body and keeping your landing position solid. That's a critical skill for when you get flipped through the air. Okay. It's also your baseline landing condition for all your rolls. This is your primary place to wind up at the end of every roll. Every other variant, including all the funny ways of standing up, are like addendums to that. That is central. Really, really central. And people lose that because they get kind of lazy in their rolls. They start rolling and popping up on a knee. They start rolling and coming up in less precise ways, and they go back to imperiling their legs and their leg structure. This is designed around a way that's going to minimize the potential of you breaking your own leg. So that's what a whole bunch of this is about. And when you go to those other more traditional ways of rolling and coming up, your potential of breaking your own legs goes up. You wind up with higher and higher degrees of probability of that. Yes, sir.
Breaking the leg, you mean the top leg striking the bottom leg? Is that
Like a hammer and a nail. The top leg turns into a ball-peen hammer, and your heel comes down and makes impact anywhere from your foot through the ankle to the shin bone, and you wind up with a fracture on the bottom leg. Yeah. Most people avoid it as long as they're in charge of the fall. It's just that when you're actually being thrown and you didn't have a plan for that, and you weren't ready for, and you had no conscious get ready, they get surprised, basically. And so for judo in particular, where, yeah, we like to surprise you, they found that you can't afford to cross the legs. There's too much chance of break. And this is from a time, too, when, yeah, you could have some leg injuries where they didn't have any reconstructive surgery for that. You know, they didn't put knees back together back then. You were just screwed up in the lane for the rest of your life, depending on how bad. So, primitive times, bad leg injuries, they avoided a lot. Had to. That falling position principle. Cool? So with that, everybody cool with that? No question about that? All right, so forward roll. We start forward roll, and we start it with a knee down and a leg out. His leg is out straight. His leg is out straight so that he doesn't push off with it or do any dumb things with that leg. There's a tendency to start using that outside leg to drive himself in the funny directions and whatnot. From here, he wants to take his lead arm, the one with the knee down side, and slide that arm as far back, keep it on the floor, keep it on the floor, keep it on the floor, until his head and shoulder make contact with the floor. All the way down. All the way down. Then he can lift his back leg if he wants a little, and he lands in the position. There we go. Then he does it on the left side. And the right side. The hand stays down, slides against the floor, makes contact, gentle roll over, slap it. And you do that innumerable times for months and months and months and months and months. There's a tendency to do a few of them and think, oh, well, I got that, and then jump up to higher and higher forms. And that's perilous. What we're really doing in this initial stage is we're conditioning your inner ear, your balance function in your inner ear, to a particular pathway of rolling that's going to keep your spine out of danger. In the meantime, if you jump to the more advanced falls a little quick, there's a big chance that your nervous system is going to freak out a little here and there, and you land on a shoulder, or you crumple on an arm, or you tweak your neck a little this way or that. You get a bunch of funny little injuries out of funny little changes that are pushing off in weird ways, and you wind up then having to work around all those little injuries while you're building your system. If you do it this way, you take all the impact out, because his structure's already on the ground. He could just go down there and wait. Just freeze right there. No impact. He's tired of it already. He wants to get out of this. But he never had any impact on that shoulder and that neck process. And now he can just gently lift the back leg. Cool? Questions about that? Has everybody done that? Anybody not done that? I'm seeing blanks.
Our people have not.
You've never done that?
Never.
And then that's, if everybody's done all the rest of it?
You know, even the back fall, I've seen different.
Even the back falls different?
Where, you know, the back fall, I've played seen from,
Right.
you know, where one leg is tucked, almost
Right.
a little curves.
The tucking the back leg, yeah. That's the one that goes along with the bending the knee to roll
Yeah, or
forward.
even, I could see where you talking about the hand, I could see where that happening with that.
Okay. We're all going to do back falls. We're all going to do forward rolls from the knee down. Here we go. Start standing.
Everyone that can. Some people have injuries.
If you're hurt, if you're injured, if you're wiped out, you're doing good, that's okay.
If you're pregnant.
Do something, this is what we're doing next. Okay. Standing position. Rise on the balls of the feet. Hands up in front.
Hey, that wall's
Make sure you got space behind you. Don't fall into that terrible wall. All right.
Forward a little bit, there you go.
Weight off the balls of the feet. Off the heels, rather. So you rise up on the balls of the feet. Then the knees bend. Hands are up at that point. Then the knees bend. All the way down to a squat. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Chin on the chest. Chin on the chest. Chin on the chest. Some people got their chin on the chest. I'm really critical about chin on the chest. Really don't want you to have a bunch of head. People will land on
Try to
each
go
other.
slow as I
And
possibly
seriously,
can.
listen up.
No.
If you let your class roll in random directions, they had a gal get her neck broke back in the late 90s. Because she was taking a roll and then somebody else took a roll and then one landed on the other in the middle of the other roll. And busted her neck out in California and she broke her neck and died. So leukemia is serious stuff. And you want to really be critical about, okay, we're all going to roll in one direction, we're all going to roll in the other direction, we're all going to make sure there's landing zones, everybody's safe. Cool? Okay. Treat it seriously. Because it's part of the thing that'll get you killed. It's part of the thing that'll keep you alive, too. You know, martial arts that don't have leukemia skills, you can teach the kids, as far as I'm concerned. They're basically kid stuff. But this stuff means that we're basically doing things that are comparable to shooting weapons at each other. I mean, this is lethal stuff. And the lethal thing that we're dealing with in leukemia is a serious, critical thing. So I'd recommend maybe everybody rolling this way. I'll get out the way. Knee down, lay down, slide under, take your shoulder and your head, touch the ground, turn your head out of the way. Pause there. Pause there to make sure that you actually have no impact on your shoulder. Gently lift your back leg, roll to the slap out position. Make sure your slap out position is sound, because your feet and hands organized. At the end, make sure you got a place to roll before you roll. There you go. You went sideways, sir. That's good. Good. If you have trouble going sideways, you might put your straight leg back farther behind you. Put your straight leg back farther behind you. Farther yet. Even all the way back. Farther. Good. That's good. So roll it. Cool. He slides under. Now, instructors stand by the side of his body where his knee is down. Bend your inside leg, because you don't want a straight leg for him to be falling into. That would be bad, right? Instruct him to lift his back leg high, and guide him forward a little bit. Give him a little nudge from this bent leg. Okay? You do that many repetitions, and as you do it, yeah, your leg will get a little tired. Kind of nudge him over a little bit. Only after he lifts. He's got to lift his back leg. He's got to know when he's taking the fall, and he's deciding that by lifting. But as he begins to go up, you're bumping into me a little bit. Yeah. The only advantage of you helping him is you can kind of feel the line a little bit and say, hey, go that way some more. Because you're not trying to affect him with a lot of power, just enough to sort of steer him a little bit as they go into that peak. Cool? You got to make sure they go deep enough under, and you got to make sure they're lifting enough with the back leg so that they're starting to hit a body rock. Start with this and crunch that shoulder. If you're doing this, it is critical that you don't fall under the illusion that this forward arm, the other arm here, that this is a weight. Yeah, that's better. It's a, so when you wind up in the mean-ass floor, the real world, what the Russians call your very good friend, they say this kind of floor is your very good friend because it will tell you when you're screwing up. This kind of floor is not a very good friend because you can be sloppy as hell and get away with it. Well, you know, I'm going to stick with the sloppy as hell floor personally for a long time, but I'm going to train it in such a way that when I walk out here and do it, we're cool. And we've proved it. We've done it on carpet and concrete and gravel and dirt. It all turns into yeah, you got to get out of the habit of popping it up tight. It comes back, but you got to do 60 or something. Symmetric. part of being able to come
It's
out.
only that, it's fine.
Hit that part once. It's like this crayon. Split apart. Land it. Hold that. Yeah. People do this too, and they have the ball up. Just go too far this way. Hit the heel. And then this too far up. Hit the foot right here. If it's too straight. Well,
That one, it's kind of hard to, is the one fall.
yeah, too straight. I don't know what I'm too straight, but I just want this gets more in there. But yeah, symmetry between the legs. Makes sense. You gotta be merciless on yourself. Catch yourself cheat every time and say, no, fix it. There. Yeah. And then you force yourself to do a real measure. Body, get the picture, fool. Because it's your unconscious. That unconscious goes to the cavity. This is how I do it. There's no big deal. And you can't. It would correct real fast if you took all the max away. Because you do one bad one and it hurt like that, and now you might not do anything worse than that. But you do a lot of feedback.
And then when you
The max make it tougher.
doing it, I was following it.
But you
And I was kicking, and it was becoming.
You just gotta
Right.
can. Everybody's tired of that stuff. I don't blame you. So, once your standing falls are cool, and you do them like in slow-mo, like several people were going toward that, so you're not adding acceleration. You also want to add different angles. So if he's falling sideways, laterally, goes over the edge of that foot, and makes the same kind of fall. Yeah. And so you help him and test him by taking him in different lines so that he doesn't get to choose which fall he's doing. He can't predict so much. And that's a good test of it that he has this very, very similar effect in all these different directions. Those directions start to include stuff back here, back behind you. And so it's kind of critical at that point that you're actually working on the balls of your feet and not on your heels. Because at the point that you're being rotated into a throw, you've got to get off your heels. If you habitually walk around on your heels, you take a back step and your heel plants and your toes pop up, you're in ridiculous danger of having your legs broken. In every athletic activity I know of, right before the guy gets his leg broken on the football field, his leg was straight. It's damn near impossible to break a leg when it's still bent. And the way we keep our legs bent, weights on the balls of the feet. Knees slightly bent, heels touching the ground, but not bearing weight. So if you have the habit of leaning into those heels, bam, 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 my toes pop, bam. Those are all broken legs in my mind. And you can be a fanatic about it. The great Kimura, the great judo man Kimura, reputedly trained himself in such a way that he could walk around and never let his weight bear onto his heels for entire days at a time. So all of his walking around life, he trained himself that every time, ooh, my heel's down, bam, I'm imagining my legs broke. I don't know. So he got off his damn heels. That's hard, and your calves will hurt. They're not used to that much work. It is a conditioning thing you got to build up if you try to do the great Kimura. But it is kind of critical when you start facing the fact that you're going to be called upon to do a forward roll back in this backward line, and you're going to have to roll over that structure down on the ground. It's got to be the ball of the foot, cannot be the heel. Heel down, leg straight, twist, spiral fracture of the lower leg, or dislocated knee. Bad stuff either way. Cool? So, ball of the feet, very important. You can do these on your own without somebody stimulating it. If he just stands facing forward this way, and he kicks his leg up that way, forward, 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 until his metatarsal engages. Go ahead, pick up. All the way up high. Almost. Pick up as high as you can. still. There you go. Yeah, there we go.
I see
There's
what
no
you mean.
reflex. Doing this is important because, yeah, now, when that metatarsal automatically, the metatarsal reflex is what's going on that causes his heel to come off the ground on the support leg. When that automatically happens, use it for rotation into a full roll. Yeah. Do that again. Do it again. Kick it. Good. Now, you don't have to kick violently. You can just kick gently up. Yeah. What this is actually doing is teaching him to get sensitive to get ready to be flipped. Because this is the same mechanism that happens in the human body. Activation of the metatarsal. Most people, when they're learning a flip into a big fall, like a corrigation or something, jump. Jumping sucks. Just say it with me. Jumping sucks. If you go out here on the concrete and you jump, all the energy that you add to your body going into that jump comes back to haunt you there. And it does it mercilessly. It hits you like the world slamming on you. It really, really sucks, okay? So we actually need to not work on a jump to get into the air for the aerial throws. We actually have to get sensitive to the natural thing that happens in the human body, which is this little metatarsal reflex. That's the only thing you need. That is actually what does the job for you. It is not any sort of extra bend of the leg, propulsion forward, acceleration, anything at all. He can do it in slow motion. Then he kicks up forward. I'll pick that one. Yeah. See the little bop, 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 bop? His thing started fibrillating and it lifted and started. That's actually what you try to do until you feel sensitive to it over and over and over again. And you can do it low, high, and you'll feel it. The involuntary reflex that starts kicking your center of gravity up, and it's only doing it about an inch. It's only doing just a little tiny extra job for you. And that's what you got to sensitize to for your big falls. Cool? Cool. Anybody want to try that? If you're doing standing falls already, that's the next thing to do. Side action, backward action, and then the kick up. Boom. A little involuntary reflex. Those are what's next. If those aren't happy for you or comfortable to you or seem like they're insane, knee down, leg out. So you never stop knee down, leg out until you're sick of it. That's perfectly fine. But if you've done a lot of those and your falls are pretty smooth, you're able to do the slow motion, this is what's next. Cool? Okay, go ahead. That was on this since we do the opposite handed foot. And do the forward roll. Yeah. Okay, so just walk at me and then just get opposite handed foot. And just go off with the opposite handed foot. This condition instead of this condition.
Yeah.
Not used very often, but it does come in handy sometimes. Sometimes it helps to get a little extra bend in the knee so you get a little lower when you try it. A little extra bend in the knee so you're lower. Boom, yeah. Right. Just a little extra flex in the knees is pretty much all it takes to be able to adjust the center of gravity around the wrong leg position. Okay? The final one is, you imagine you have a little space to cover. And you start with a little step and a little hop and then a topple. And you can go for height or you can go for distance. Remember now? Okay. So we're going to go. I'm walking. Like this up. You can do out. Yeah. We're breaking the rule about jumping. And I don't really know that this is all that damn useful except for really, really, really special occasions like throwing mechanisms that basically have to do with the guy throwing it basically rolling into your structure. And you have to get a little bit of elevation to go over those things. And when you get that stimulus of something coming up under through your legs here, woo! That little pop becomes important, but it's not something you want to go to as a standard deal. It's like a special case in there. Cool? So you don't have to do them big and dramatic. You can just walk, walk. kind of post off the straight leg and just give a little extra bounce as you go into it. And over time, they can get really dramatic. You can do, Damon, you want to do a long one? Yeah, go ahead and do a long one.
Yeah, you do.
So he's just going to mark a spot on the floor that he wants to jump past. Yeah. He gets a little acceleration. Yeah. And has that sort of diving action. This is actually, you see these dramatic pictures of people doing ukemi, and their hands are way out like this. That's where that comes. Like you're being shoved, or the cars just hit you, or you went off the front of the bicycle or the motorcycle, right? And you have a lot of acceleration in your body to dissipate. Your center of gravity is falling out in front of you, and you actually have to track it out with your hands. Your hands go with your center of gravity. If you're standing right here and falling, your center of gravity is falling straight down. Your hands go there. If I'm taking a step, they go out here a little bit. My center's falling right here. If you're running, boom, and that's what that long driving action is. Sometimes you see people doing the outside action, and they don't have any acceleration down there. And it's very disorganized, and they hurt themselves with that too, okay? So just be aware that the hands are going to track out the more acceleration you have. And the less acceleration you have, the hands are going to stay tight and down into your own base. Cool? Any questions about this stuff? Any of it you want to see again? Let's have a quick water break, and we'll come back and do something fun.